I want to talk briefly about. Let's see, where's my microphone? Okay, here it is. I want to talk briefly about how people engage in conversation, and particularly how that conversation uh, is used to discuss politics and other things like religion or anything contentious or controversial. So, people, when we're children, we respond and learn to communicate with our parents and the people around us. And kind of our behavior and personality develops uh, strongly from our our genetics and then from our environment, right? So it's twofold. But first of all, people have different personalities genetically. Then we develop personalities through the way we were raised. So, but all of us seem to have uh, a certain limit on our ability um, to read body language, and um, we have a certain limit on our psychology when it comes to communication. And then also we develop psychological attachments to words, right? And then what happens is that as a group, within a language group, within a culture, um, we develop certain cultural idiosyncrasies, um, social norms, right? And within those social norms, there's kind of like expected uh, body languages and expected phrases that we're kind of ready for, you know, like "Hi Bob, how you doing? Hey, what's up, man? You still beating your wife?" We hear familiar phrases. We shake hands, or like the French, they kiss on their cheeks or whatever. You go through kind of the body language ritual, right? And so there's kind of like there's a psychological re- reward system in place that has been put in place and developed when we learned how to communicate as children. And we all have that to some degree. And it varies. But it seems that culturally in society, um, it's always been socially alienating to discuss more controversial topics, whether it's religion or politics, and especially in money. People don't like to talk about, especially their own money. Um, a lot of people, they shut down. They don't want to hear it. It's frustrating. It's confusing. It's complicated. They have feelings and ideas, but maybe they're not all the way thought through, and they haven't. They've been busy, and they don't remember everything. They've read some things, but they don't. They're not prepared for debate or anything like that. So once people feel that there's a topic with contentious ideas, or something that is debatable, they people feel like, I just want pleasant communication. I don't want to have to try. I don't. A lot of people, they look at socializing in different ways. For and people tend to adopt different rhetorical methods for their socializing. So, for instance, you can look at the different. You could look it up. The different rhetorical modes of conversation. One of them is narrative, like you have a narrator who's telling you what's going on in a story. Well, that's like my dad's default communication mode when we're hanging out with family, you know, and he'll say things like, "Well, here we are, just hanging out and having dinner, and everybody's doing great." He likes to reaffirm and make people feel comfortable by um, using this type of narrative form of communication. I mean, it's just like part of his personality. And I make fun of him for it, right? Because a lot of people don't understand that they're using a narrative form of conversation, right? I do understand this stuff. I've studied this stuff. I've looked into it at least. Well, my narrative form of conversation tends to be, excuse me, it's not narrative. My rhetorical form of communication is not narrative. It is more argumentative. And I'm not saying I'm always trying to pick a fight. It's just I'm always making points and saying, well, this is this, and this is why I think this, and I talk a lot about ideas. I don't talk a lot about people. Sometimes I do. I mean, of course, we all have to talk about people, but you get my point. There's different modes of communication, and my mode in particular tends to put people off. I've known this for a long time, and I came up with a phrase. Shoot, when I was younger, yeah, I'd rather be right than have friends. That was kind of in a response to me learning about my own mode of communication when I was younger, in my early 20s, and I noticed that I was putting people off with my type of argumentative conversations, and I like to talk ideas and debate, and I want to talk about interesting things with substance that have real life consequences, and I want to have a group of friends and family that I discuss these things from, and then we kind of, people understand, we share ideas and learn, and then maybe we do something together. Maybe it develops into a project that we work towards, and that's my type of, I guess, like engineering cooperative type of communication, where I want to plan a project with the tribe and then execute it, right? So I'm like the engineer, right? That's just my personality. My dad's an engineer too, but he's also a very nice family man, so he's adopted, I think, the narrative form to bring peace and tranquility to the tribe, which I think is a very great way of communicating, by the way. And so I guess when you're younger, you want to tackle problems. It's our young world, and we're here to solve all the problems. So, anyways, I didn't mean to make this video so long. The point is that there are real psychological reasons why people are receptive or not receptive to certain modes of conversation. And I think it's an interesting topic that could be pursued further in regards to rhetoric and propaganda, and convincing people of all kinds of things, from sales to politics to dinner parties, and getting along better with your friends and your family and your children and whatnot. Just communication is very important, and I think it might have been a subject I would have been interested in studying if I didn't pursue other things. But anyways, thanks for listening.